Hi everyone, we are Tile and Cork. We're Amy and Josh, and we moved abroad. We moved to Lisbon last year with our two kids, and we're here sharing our experiences about moving abroad, moving to Lisbon, moving to Portugal with you.
And today we're going to talk about moving with kids.
Yep.
How to prepare them, how to do it, how to keep them here.
So they don't run away. Yeah, I think, there's a lot of people who want to make the move abroad, but they're really scared of how it's going to impact their kids.
Mhm.
They don't want to scar them for life. They want to provide their kids with some cool experiences, they want to make the move themselves, but they might wait in the US for longer, wait until their kids leave the house or whatever because, of their kids. And so we moved abroad with our kids, so we're going to go over a lot of what that looked like.
Yeah, we thought it, honestly, we might have even sped up the process a little bit because we thought it was a perfect time for our kids to move.
Yeah.
They were going to be 5 and 7 shortly after we moved here.
Yeah.
And from what we understood, that was a good age for them to learn the language a little bit easier, a little bit faster, to assimilate a little bit quicker.
Yeah.
And also to not miss maybe as much back in the United States. So we did really push, and we wanted to make sure we moved here before school started so that the kids could start school here.
And selfishly, we just wanted to make the move then. We didn't want to wait, like another year or 5 years or whenever. Like, we felt it was important for us and our family overall to make this move.
From what we attended a lot of webinars, we read a lot online, we joined Facebook groups, we had consultants, and we understood too that as kids get older, 9, get into teens, learning the language, making friends, obviously going to school can be harder.
Yeah.
Our kids, our daughter started her first year at school, and if she doesn't get 100% of the information, it's only first year.
Yeah, exactly. So we thought it was a good year to move because, it's less pressure than it might be if, kids are in high school or wherever.
Yeah. And also, we wanted to try a different culture. The culture here is largely lived outside. People don't have big houses and stay in them all day. You go outside to play. You go outside to meet with friends. You go to a cafe to have some coffee, and the kids can play and do other things, maybe be off their screens, a little bit more. We're still guilty of spending a Saturday all day at home.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot going on. But yeah, we wanted a different culture, a little less consumerism.
Yeah.
The kids aren't really focused on toys here.
Yeah, we used to, I will say in the US, sometimes we would go and I would go to Target, and our daughter would be like, Mom, take a picture of this. I want this. Take a picture of this. I was taking, 100 pictures of things she wanted because she would want them then. And I said, we can't have them now. Like, let's take a picture of it for later. So we remember
we'll put it on the list. This is something that works if you want. It's going to go on the list of things that would potentially buy, and then that would satisfy her for the moment, which is great.
But still, she would want all these things, and I get it as a kid, but we wanted to get away from that consumerism and just feeling like you need more stuff.
And also, other kids might have the same toy that they would want, and all these other things. It was a bit competitive. Here, we don't really see that very much.
Yeah.
There's a lot of sharing. Sharing is a big culture here, too, between kids.
So,
we just want a different lifestyle and culture.
Yeah.
We also think that giving their kids the ability to overcome obstacles, to adapt to changing environments is good. Obviously, we didn't want to get crazy, which is why we are staying in one place for a long time, and we're not traveling from country to country and putting them in different schools or homeschooling them or anything like that. We do think with this, ever-changing world and all the things that are thrown at kids these days and adults, that giving them the ability to accept things as they come, change what they can, to maybe not take everything personally or think of things as being so permanent.
Yeah, give them like experiences and tools that are going to help them adapt to situations later in life.
That's what I meant.
Yeah. So by moving here and having these new experiences and changing things, but also having stability, we think it's, giving our kids those experiences where we can travel to other places here, but we still have the stability of like living here in Portugal, but they are adapting to their new life here and what that looks like.
Well said.
Thanks.
You should have a YouTube series.
Oh, I should.
Maybe by yourself.
No.
So we did have some requirements when we were moving, obviously with kids, that we had to think of our kids in the move. We are not soulless beings that would drag them around Europe, as much fun as that sounds.
Now I know there are people out there that do kind of world schooling and travel around from place to place. No hate on you guys. This is just what we know is right for our kids.
Right. Yeah. No strolling around the hills, singing the guitar, and dressing our kids in drapes.
And drapes, yes.
In the curtains. So some other things, we knew we didn't want to have a car, so we wanted to be able to get around easily. We moved to a bigger city for that reason, but even in Lisbon itself, where we first started out staying while we were looking for an apartment, was very hilly, only had bus access to places.
Yeah.
It was a bit of a walk or a bus ride to go to a train or subway. So, and again, with the hills that are so hilly, I think they're all uphill too.
Every single one is just uphill.
The kids really had to acclimate to that. So, we wanted to be able to get around easily. Mm-hmm. But then we also had to find a place that the schools were maybe more open to immigrants like ourselves, that might help them with the Portuguese language. And it's kind of nice here that the schools are have to take your kids of a certain age and put them in a school, regardless of when you arrive. So even if you come here in the middle of the year, they'll have to find a place for your kid. Yeah,
and we can't speak to private schools or international schools from that regard, but public schools here, which our daughter is in, is that situation.
Which we might have reconsidered a private school if our kids were older, and we thought they might need help integrating. But again, we thought it was a good time for them to start a public school. Lisbon turned out to be it. Yeah. But we did want our daughter to at least start school at the beginning of the year, so she wouldn't be that weird American student that starts in October.
That is not an American accent.
Sorry. Well, that was the teacher, who was some sort of British, mid-Atlantic. Sorry. Everyone, put down your pencils
I feel like
say hello.
I feel like we are in an old Disney movie right now.
I turned into Mrs. Doubtfire, is what happened. Yeah, we didn't want her to feel any more awkward than she already did by coming in the middle of school. Yeah, Turns out she started 2 weeks late, so it happened
still a little
anyway.
bit, but 2 weeks late is much better than 2 months later, middle of the school year. So we timed our move to kind of correspond with that.
So I think we've talked about kind of our requirements. We've kind of skipped over the how do you prepare your kids to move to another country?
Yeah,
it's
at any age. It's a tough one.
Probably the biggest advice I got was to let them know as soon as you're certain. Give them plenty of time to prepare mentally, to grieve about the things that they're leaving behind, and also to get excited about moving. Which at the time seemed like a good idea, but also I was playing with okay, kids, we're moving tomorrow. When you're a parent and you haven't read all of the parenting book, you're not always sure what the best answer is for preparing your kids. We weren't quite sure, but from what I read, that was the way to do it. So we waited until we had our visa appointments, and we were pretty sure that we were going to move.
Yeah, we waited until we had them scheduled, not actually going to the appointments. Yeah.
Right, so which turned out to be about 6 months before we actually moved. Mm-hmm. Their responses were kind of interesting. We didn't make a big deal of it. We had been here on a scouting trip 2 years before, so they were somewhat familiar with the area we were going to be moving to.
And I think that really helped, because when we said we were moving to Portugal, they had been to Portugal recently. It had like, I think around the time we told them, it had been a year since we had been here.
Mhm.
So it was nice because they remembered being on the airplane and playing in the parks here. And so we could pull up a picture and say, there. And they're
Right.
like, yeah, that's Portugal. And so they knew where we were moving to.
They were pretty chill about it. They were obviously a little worried about the friends that they'd be leaving behind.
Every once in a while, our daughter said she didn't want to move. And I think,
Mhm.
she was concerned about leaving her friends behind and everything. And
Yeah, and I kind of had to remind her that all the friends that she was sad about leaving, she'd only made that year in kindergarten.
Yeah.
And at this point, that we've been here a year, she's had friends here longer than she's had their friends in kindergarten. Pretty soon, this sense of loss and grief turned into excitement about moving to another place. And I think as soon as they started telling other people that they're moving to Portugal and not being believed at first, and then
like seeing people's reactions to it and really like, what?
Right.
Like,
and that's where we would get the looks from the adult, like
what
kids are dumb.
like,
they think they're moving to another country.
But you guys are just taking a trip there, right? And it's like, no, we're moving.
And they started thinking it was pretty cool, and they started telling everybody that they're moving to Portugal.
They were excited to tell people.
So as far as we could tell, the kids were mentally prepared for the move. But I think one thing that helped a lot was that we planned a trip to see family before we left. That was about 2 weeks long. And in it, we stayed at about 5 or 6 different places. At families, at hotels, at Airbnbs. We ate more meals at other people's houses and restaurants. And I think after a while, they were really accustomed to moving around, to not being in a permanent place. Seeing
different people.
And not holding on to a place as a permanent thing.
And so I think that was a big factor that just kind of helped prepare them for not being in the routine at home. Because we were doing something else for a couple of weeks, it helped get them out of the routine.
And that was shortly before we moved here. And then even while we cleared out our house, the kids stayed with their grandmother for the week before. So, by the time we got on a plane and got here to where we were staying, it was another place, and it was exciting and new. And we went to all the parks, and we played with other kids. So I think the kids transitioned quite well. And even to this day, I ask them, if they miss things from home, and primarily it's maybe some friends from school, and then
cousins,
neighbors, and cousins, and maybe every now and again they miss a car, having a car in the driveway. Until I remind them that if we took a car, they'd have to be in a booster seat. And then
they're like, no, okay.
So overall, our kids did very well. I don't think they would have had any less trauma going to a school in the U.S. really.
or even just moving to a different city in the U.S. Like
and making friends.
It feels like it'd be a very similar transition.
We're only a year in, but so far it worked out.
They're happy, and
and we're happy.
So, well, if you have questions about moving abroad with kids, if you're thinking of doing this move yourself, because I think a lot of these things we covered, like, really can apply to any country you're moving to, not necessarily Portugal. So, but feel free to ask us in the comments any specific questions that you have.
Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you later.
Bye.
Ciao, ciao.